What's up guys, Fabio Palvelli here with the D2 Talks. This week Jason Bergeron is going to interview Philip Clemens and Gilberto Bonelli of Diorama. Hit the like button if you like this video. Also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure to check out the first series of the D2 Talks. And I guess I'll see you guys next week.
So hi everybody, Jason Bergeron here from the D2 conferences. We're going to continue our D2 Talk series, and I'm here today with Gilberto and Philip from Diorama, and I've got a bunch of questions for them, and we're going to try to get the best answers that we can from these guys today. So the first thing is to try to introduce yourself in 2 minutes or less.
So, Philip, Gilberto, we've been working together for about 5 years. We have another couple of partners, one of whom's Gianni in Milan. We're handling the Paris office. Obviously, we're working for Diorama that we established 2 years ago, around about. Mostly we're Italians. I'm an Australian, and we've got a few French people around about and a few other Europeans here and there. We've been doing visualization now for sort of 5-10 years together, separately in different companies, in different places. We feel like we're getting pretty decent at what we're doing now, and we're enjoying it a lot.
And I'm going to ask these questions just to both of you, and maybe if you both have something to say, that would be the best way to answer it, because they're, you know, it's we're saying you, but we mean both of you. Do you recall the moment in your life where you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to be an ArchViz artist?
Does it ever happen? I don't know. I've studied architecture. I started as an architect. What happened after a few months in Jean Nouvel, where I've been working for 2 years, I asked myself, do I really want to spend months or years of my life moving pillars on a plan, which happens. So I put myself in the situation of taking a risk, and starting doing 3D was the only way to get closer to the creative part of the job, to Jean Nouvel himself. So I struggled, let's say, for 3-6 months, no weekends, long hours learning, and then I passed by this step to be a modelizer in Rhino over there, got closer to the visualization and understood there that maybe that was the solution, doing something I'm passionate with. I've been passionate about photography since my childhood, and then the rest is almost random luck or a chance of encounters or opportunities I've been able to pick up somewhere. That's mostly that.
I suppose there was a specific moment, but I think Jill brings up something like, in terms of architecture, we think of visualization as a way to shortcut into creative processes, as a way to get into the project and have real impact. Because as a junior architect, you're really often sidelined doing less interesting or having less interesting work or having less control over a project. And when you're engaged in producing images, it's like, wow, here's something I'm doing, here's an end result, and I have a sort of validation very quickly about the work I'm doing, rather than it being a process of years or months. I think that really figured into my choice for becoming a 3D guy, I suppose. But for me, it was leaving school and meeting a couple of really charming French guys in Sydney who offered me my first job, and it was like, who can say no? They sort of gave me everything on a plate, and it was just a fantastic experience. I was very lucky.
I would have to say I have a similar experience because there's this mix of like the hard work of learning the stuff and then some coincidences that you have to take advantage of them, like when they come, because you might not know even at the moment if that's what is happening to you, but sometimes those things are the things that somehow propel you down further, like just getting that coincidence and taking advantage of it. But
it's basically what happens in life in general.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk, and I guess we will talk about how I mean, it's important how what we do relates to how we live. I mean, it's tough. Taking every opportunity that comes through the door, that you go knocking on the door. You go out, you meet people, you engage, you see exhibitions, you're exploring all the time. It's absolutely necessary to what we do, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And this is along the similar lines, but what do you think would be what you would consider one of the biggest turning points in your career? So you've got the chance there, you started, but then later on there was something that like changed and was a turning point.
I had a career before in like management. Dropping that and heading off to architecture school was a very difficult decision and fantastic. Going through 5-6 years of school and then deciding not to become an architect. Kicking off from Australia, heading to Paris without speaking French. I mean, there's all sorts of little moments in time that have had a huge impact. No one.
There's no one.
And then after that, just like Paris has been amazing.
But you said you had a career in management before, so you're saying you actually had. Did you study something else previous to?
No, I fell into it.
Okay, but you were already working, and then decided to go to architecture school.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I mean, it's a long story, but the full story starts with completely disaster of first-year architecture school.
Oh, it was like I don't want to do this, or I can't, or I don't know.
This isn't what I want to do with myself. I don't believe you. I mean, I wasn't ready. I mean, at a simple level, it's good to take that time. Getting into the workforce and seeing what work is just like fundamental to like growing up. Okay.
And Gilberto, what do you have to say about that?
For me, turning point relies again to my experience at Jean Nouvel, because I moved to Paris. I was 23 at the end of my studies, no, maybe 26, just to make an Erasmus exchange program for a semester in Paris. Then I got the chance to be intern in Jean Nouvel. I spent 6 months in the office. Then I had to go back to Italy to do my thesis and to finalize the studies to be an architect. And when I got a call from Jean Nouvel asking, so do another turnaround, come back, we can start working together again. I had to take a chance, this chance, and the decision to go back is not really related to ArcViz or to 3D, but that was the starting point. I guess we still are architects, just a little bit, doing our job. We are doing this slightly different, in a different way. The way we're doing we are architects now is like being able to lead the conversation with actual architects, if there can be a difference. That's what I learned after, thanks to other experience in other companies, and which led me to be here today, speaking together.
Okay, it's interesting. It's like this whole coincidence thing comes up a lot. I know that's the thing that's really interesting about hearing stories from people from how they became into a certain job or into a certain deciding to do it. It's
a walkthrough.
In terms of mental sanity, working in this job, of course,
You're talking to a madman.
What do you mean?
He has no mental sanity.
That was the answer.
But anyway, so in terms of mental sanity, working in this job can be stressful. You end up working long hours. The clients have weird requests or too many requests. You're having to negotiate with them, compromise, optimize. And how has the profession been affecting you personally? What are the things you've learned from that? Those problems that arise? And how do you maintain your head above the water? Like, how do you keep yourself level?
Yeah, so, like, do we have a mental sanity doing this job? That's the question. Or other funny thing is that without problems we won't have fun. So, same thing. We are here to. We had a conversation somewhere else, a few minutes ago maybe, about problem solving, which is a big part of our job. I guess we cannot avoid a huge charge of work, or we just need to try to optimize the way we're doing that, the relationships we have with our clients, the conversation and the weight of the conversation we can establish, and that's what we strongly trying to do all the way around, to let's say to survive to pressure, but it's part of the job. Somebody could say it's a professional deformations of creative workflows. We are often pushed to work till the very end and never been satisfied. That's fine. It's a way to. We need to survive. It's not so difficult, but we need to put it in the equation and deal with it as better as possible. I really don't have a solution. I don't have a real answer. If that's the point.
So in that case, you're saying it's ongoing.
Probably.
We'll talk in a couple more years and see
Or
if
he's
you've come up with
broken. You both mentioned professionalism, and it's like, if we're being sane, then professionalism should be sort of the catchphrase. There are jobs that are professional that maintain a level of stress. It's natural. When you're dealing with uncertainty, in our case, most often it's the client, but also it can be the image itself, because it's like sometimes you have to search for a solution, it's not self-evident. So you can really be confronted by that uncertainty, and that can be stressful, especially when you've got a deadline looming or you've got a render that takes, I don't know, far too long. But we really need to maintain a level of professionalism in order to establish, sanity as just a given. It shouldn't be on the table, and it's really unfortunate that it is, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. It's something that you take for granted when you haven't done the job, and then when you're doing it, you realize that there's got to be a way to solve the problem somehow, because it can be tasking on your mental stability. Absolutely.
You can't sit there in front of a computer screen for days at a time and not start to sort of question what on earth you're doing, going out in the day after the night after the day, and you see the sun, and it's like you become a vampire in front of the monitor. This isn't healthy. Try to avoid that.
Yeah. So if I were to appeal to you as both an artist and an entrepreneur, if I ask you what scares you the most, what would you answer?
Because we're both artists and entrepreneurs?
Yes, as an artist and entrepreneur, because you're doing both. You're acting as an artist, but you're also running a business.
So can I say that the art part scares me?
Yeah, sure.
Like entrepreneurial, I mean, pronouncing the word itself seems to be quite difficult, so that's kind of scary. But the art part, it's like we need to establish an art practice if we're going to call ourselves artists. At this stage, we're pretty far from that in an industry sort of sense. Looking at the sort of weight of history of art behind us and the sort of acceleration of production over the last 10, 15, 20 years. We're a young practice. We haven't been doing this, with our own sort of real guidance for a long time. It scares me to think that someone's going to look at this and look at the work we produced last year in 2 years, 3 years, and think that that is representative of where we are. I'd like to say that we're going to develop, we're going to change, and we're going to get, better every time, but also we're going to explore. I think being static, God, I'm just giving a whole list of things that scare me. So maybe I'll pass over to Jill.
What would scare you the most? Now I realize there's multiple things, but no, I think those are good points, though. That's not just...
To me, it's like way the opposite. What does motivate me? We see already the word being artist is like putting a lot of pressure on us, because what we can discuss for hours what is art and what is entrepreneurial too, if you want. But there are practice is changed. Most of the practice are changing, and there are actual artists over there being real entrepreneur. And if you think at the most known big artists around, but I would say real artists are also businessmen, much more than ourselves. So I can refer to them, and they are doing an outstanding work sometimes. So for me, it's like more, for us, I guess, more a good reference to aspire to, instead of being scared. I don't like a lot the word being scared. There are a lot of clients that use this word, and we don't. We get quite allergic to that.
Yes, I understand. I actually think, in a way, to use the word artist is a little bit of a misconception. It's probably better to use the word creative. What I mean is that the word artist can have connotations to it that sometimes we might feel like that's not really what I would call myself. I don't know, in terms of what we're doing. So maybe that's really a better way to phrase it would be as creative, and a creative and an entrepreneur. But
yeah, no, it's like a detail whatsoever. But we are creating visuals, and
in French you have graphist.
You have graphist, illustrator. There are many different. We concentrate in our profession a lot of skills which comes from different corners of the art world, let's say, or the visual world. So, well, that's fascinating, by the way.
But to get back just to that, just for one more second, just for a short answer, or I guess to clarify it a little bit more, is there's two things that I always had problems with myself, and that was sometimes feeling the imposter syndrome, where I feel like, well, am I really good enough to do that job? Like sometimes, and I had this in architecture school as well. It comes up every now and then. Am I good enough? I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. And the second part would be, as an entrepreneur or as a business person or trying to run a business, because there's realities there you can't escape either. Of course, to have the sense of failure that you could, not like uncertainty and things like that. And does that ever come up? Or do you even want to talk about it? I mean, I understand that's a very, it can be a touchy
I think you're
topic.
absolutely right. And I think that it's rare to encounter an art practice without that level of difficulty. Self-doubt is a really valuable quality. The fact that we can go to each other's computers, go to the guys' computers, walk around and talk about the images, because they're contingent, they're evolving. I mean, they're not final at any point in time. The concept of finality, you can keep working on an image forever, and we try not to. But the self-doubt is like a really sort of fundamental part of that process. I think it's important.
I would agree it's valuable, but there's also this where the self-doubt can get you in like a block, which is kind of the part you don't want to happen. Doubt it for sure, because you need to constantly check yourself and step back and have others critique what you're doing, and that's for sure a natural part of it.
To me is for my thanks to my personality probably. I go through doubts in what we are doing, in what we are building, how we are managing our business or our company. I always try to transform these negative feelings to something that motivates us to do better all the time. On the output, on how we are running between us, the workflow, the mood in the office, the relationship between us. Mm-hmm. We will always go through conflicts or up and down, but let's try to improve the ups instead of the downs.
Yeah. Another question I would have that's kind of related to that in a way is, if you could go back in time, is there something you would change about your life that maybe you think would lead you down another path? I know it's a very speculative question, but maybe there's nothing you would change. That's what we want to hear.
Go back in time and change stuff. I mean, yes, and wow, so many things, but like the thing that you have to tell yourself is just no regrets. It's like, go back in time, kick yourself in the head, and stop wasting it, because it's so wasteful of a really finite and important resource. Just do it.
Okay. Again, I'm somebody who asks himself not a lot of questions. So, again, I would love to keep the chance to keep the opportunity to change my life whenever I want, now and in the future. So I made some decisions in the past. I don't like the word fear, I don't like the word regrets. So no, it's okay. Maybe more that I would love to change, maybe have other changes and have the chance to take the decisions and see what happens.
I wanted to hear the answers first, but so for me personally, I'm the same as you a little bit. I don't really regret anything I did, and actually some of the things where at some point in my life I actually thought I wish I would have done something differently, if I really think about it, it actually was one of the things that led me down another path which I would not have ever had if I did not have that. So regretting things sometimes is difficult. Maybe if your life was full of changes or things that happened to you that led you in a bad direction, then you might want to change things. But I think a lot of times those things, in a way, they help you. The things you might want to change, they actually helped you in some other way.
Sure. So, I guess we are pretty lucky to be here today all together, first of all. And that means that the choice we made in the past led us here together today. It's a pretty good place to be. And so, no changes for the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say, let's talk about that in 2 years again.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll do that. We'll make a date now. Okay. We're timing it from right now. So now we're going to move into a little bit more on the business side for you running your business, and that would be one of the things is, how do you recognize a person that you feel could bring value to the company, and what's the criteria you would use for choosing those people?
For me, it's really easy. It's just vibrations, and that's it. No matter else, nothing else matters probably, but to a certain point.
So from that perspective, you mean that it's not all going to be based on just the work the person's done, but it's also the person themselves, how they interact with others, or if you know them, that they can do this?
We built a company from scratch 2 years ago. We ran to the question of how to find people working for us. We opened it in Milan before. The office is based in Milan. We hired students that had no real skills in 3D at the very first time. And today they are doing outstanding work. They are skilled much more than somebody else, like me. So that was the instinctive choices we made with all together. When we were building the office, so just looking at portfolio, good taste, meet the guy or the girl, and say, oh, that's it. We had a good conversation. Let's work together. Let's move forward together. That's the most important point. That's it.
No, I'd like to hear your opinion as well.
I mean, he's right about the vibration, although I wouldn't use the word myself. We have to be open, though. We have to be really open. I don't want to be that. I mean, diversity is super important, and I'm not talking in like a political sense. I'm talking about a taste sense. We can sort of get sidetracked in a cul-de-sac and end up just reproducing the same thing. So we have to be really open to diverse visual cultures so that everybody can get in and produce something. It could be great, it could be nothing like we've ever seen before, and that's what we want. We don't want to be producing the same image next year that we were doing this year, and the only way we're going to do that is by getting together with the people that are doing something else, that aren't the same things as we're doing now. I don't know, does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, and I'll be honest, that's one of the things that we do at the D2 conference. Shameless plug. But that's one of the things we do at the D2 conference is that we like to bring as a speaker at least one or two people that are not even doing ArtViz, because it is so valuable to look at how people do things in 3D, of course. It's actually not even necessary. It could be photography or some other visual art, graphic design or something. But the point is that to see how somebody else is doing something, you can really learn so much from that. And I think that's great that you want to use that same thing to bring it, because it could be easy to say, well, we just want to get the guys who can do ArtViz. But it's kind of boring. And it doesn't lead you anywhere else.
Exactly. I mean, where we don't want to be just on the highway. I mean, driving down a highway, if you're doing the speed limit, as you should, it can be really, really boring. It's fatiguing, you fall asleep, you have a crash. We don't want to be doing that. We want to always be going off on the unknown route. I think we're pretty good. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. It's a great idea. What do you think that an artist or someone who's working for you would need to do to advance their career and grow within the company? And do you support that, of course, like the growth of the staff?
As best we can. It has to be self-motivated to a great extent. It has to be, our openness has to be mirrored by their openness. So their engagement with references in cinema, photography, theater, books, literature, magazines. He'll say photography. I'll also say photography. We try to put all of that stuff out on the table at the very beginning for them. I think we're quite clear about where we want to go in a way, and we will always give them the opportunity to put something on the table in front of us and say, let's go. We're pretty young, but I think that's one of those questions in like 2 years, we'll have established real strategies to get down to that.
Yeah, I can see that with it because we're talking about a company that's 2 years old. So to say that, you know, what's the way to grow in the company? I mean, yeah, it's that's being like developed now, like
It's
how
organic
to
in a
manage
way.
that the people inside the
And
office.
that's also why we're talking to more people in the industry.
So sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Just say it again.
That's also why we're talking to other people in the industry, to find out everything we can. I mean, we're not reinventing a wheel. We're not just talking to architectural visualization firms. I mean, we have to be engaged at a wider scale with a broader spectrum in order to do the best we can.
Also because we handle a tool which is not only, which can deal with multiple environments, let's say. It's not only architecture. Our tools are used almost everywhere in the technology, science, technology, architecture, advertising. So being stuck in just one slice of the cake, let's say, and not feed ourselves with other influences, it's just not fair. So that doesn't lead us anywhere. It's like the not driving on a highway again. It's like need to explore, travel, feed our eyes, because it's easy to get good in technically and reproduce the same thing infinite times, but then then this gets boring, so we will cut it. That's it. Need to, as you grow as a person, as an artist, let's say, you will grow, and the company will grow. Everybody will be happy. We'll go further.
Okay, and the last thing we want to ask you, or that I want to ask you, is that one of the reasons that we're making these videos is to help inspire younger people who are coming into the industry. And do you think that there is something that the artists that are coming in are still not understanding about the industry, and what could be the advice to them coming in?
The real, to me, we get back to the same point on the last question, is like, don't rely only on technical skills and technology. It's for sure that's really important, but the way you handle the tool, and the fantastic tool we have today, will make the difference. So just continue to look around you and think as that you have to travel a lot in your life to be able to use these skills, these technical skills, or the theoretical skills in different ways, and that will make the difference. I guess that's pretty much my main objective, or main concern about how the 3D world is moving forward technically, and we don't have to forget that even with less advanced tools, we can do sometimes better things. So.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that, because I think it's important is that because what you're saying is it's not just about the technical tools, which is true, and that it's a lot about observing around you what's happening, and not just observing what's happening around you in your life, but looking at other things like we just talked about, looking at other things for inspiration, because the tools, they help you make the final product, but it's not helping you understand what the final product should look like, or how you want it to look like.
Yeah, it's not about the tools. It's about the image at the end, the animation at the end, or whatever you're doing at the end. How you got there is another story. But the thing is the product, is the service, is the outcome. It's what's important. I think it's funny that we're talking about industry. I mean, it's not an industry. It's a bunch of people that have randomly fallen into positions of, like, that they've created, that we've created. I don't think there's anything that differentiates what we're doing in a lot of ways from what everyone else is doing, from what the younger people in the industry are going to come up and do themselves. I think there's an extraordinary level of flatness, like, between everybody. I mean, obviously there is some form of hierarchy, but for the younger people coming through, it's like the top is not so far. It's attainable in a lot of ways. I don't know if you disagree.
No, I understand what you're saying. And I think actually one of the advantages that younger people have is that if they do have the chance to learn the tools, there's things that they can learn that and apply in this situation that the upper guys, the older guys, might not even know, like, or how to do, because it's changing so fast, everything.
Exactly. I mean, it's really hard to keep up with every release, every time. And we are busy. We're really busy. But we try to keep a grasp on that because, it's necessary for us to do that as well, unfortunately. It's also fascinating and it's good to be a geek.
Yeah. So another question would be like related to all that is, so are you hiring? Which maybe you don't want to say right now.
We would love to.
We'll stay tuned.
We looking for help. Help to get to be less busy. No, yeah, we always, and in this moment particularly, would love to improve our team. And that's it.
Yeah,
I just
want to help you guys out. We want to help you find those people.
Yes, we're hiring. We're open to all comers, and we'd love to hear from anyone that's interested in coming to work with us in Paris or Milan.
Okay, great. Guys, that's it. Thank you, Gilberto and Philip, for taking the time to talk to us today. And we will see you for the next one.